They wanted my private lake for canoe yoga and collective chakra. But a judge's laughter signaled the HOA's shocking downfall. And the truth about private property, the air in the courtroom crackled with an unspoken tension, quickly replaced by utter disbelief as Judge Thompson peered over his spectacles. "Let me understand this," he began, a tremor of genuine bewilderment in his voice. "Your homeowners association is suing Mr. Miller because he wouldn't allow canoe yoga on his private lake?" Brenda Peterson, the self-proclaimed visionary behind the Silver Birch Community Association, rose with an almost theatrical indignation. Her shoulders were squared, her voice oozing with a practiced self-importance. "It's far more than just a lake, Your Honor. It's a vital, shared natural amenity within our collective spiritual ecosystem." I nearly choked on my coffee. Judge Thompson blinked, then blinked again, as if clearing his mental cache. His gaze then shifted to me, Frank Miller, a man of 58 years, comfortably clad in my favorite jeans and flannel, my thermos clutched in one hand, a fishing lure unconsciously toyed with in the other. "Mr. Miller," he probed, his voice now slow and deliberate, "do you, in fact, hold ownership of this body of water?" I took a calm sip from my coffee, meeting his eyes, and simply nodded. "Bought it outright, cash, back in '98, Your Honor." The deed explicitly states Lake Frank. A ripple of sound, a low chuckle escaped the judge's lips, echoing through the room like the first triumphant crack in a dam. In that instant, Brenda's grand, self-important narrative began to unravel, her meticulously crafted case spiraling downward like a punctured kayak. My small slice of heaven lay just beyond the pristine, almost suffocatingly sterile borders of Silver Birch Estates. That subdivision was a monument to conformity. Vinyl homes, mailboxes shaped like tiny lighthouses or sailboats, and a pervasive passive aggression so thick it could choke you faster than lake water. As a retired wildlife officer, I craved simplicity. My modest cabin, my sturdy dock, and a hand-carved sign that proudly declared, "Private Lake, trespassers will be swim-tested." For 20 blissful years, Lake Frank was my sanctuary. Bass jumped, loons called, and my only major concern was a hungry raccoon pilfering snacks. It was perfect. Then, like a storm cloud on a clear day, Brenda Peterson arrived. Freshly divorced, a self-appointed life coach, she quickly seized the reins of the Silver Birch HOA, transforming it from a minor nuisance into a full-blown suburban monarchy within 6 months of her 2023 spring arrival. She eyed Lake Frank not as the indisputable private property it was, but as an unutilized community resource, a phrase that still makes my blood boil. My status as a non-HOA member, a mere clerical oversight, she declared with a dismissive flick of her perfectly manicured hand, assuring me it would be rectified soon. Oh, how I disagreed. It began subtly with unsolicited emails appearing in my inbox, emails I'd never provided to the HOA. Then came the glossy flyers crammed into my mailbox, proudly announcing sunrise paddleboard ceremonies on my Lake Frank, complete with professional graphics and QR codes for registration. The sheer audacity was breathtaking. I dispatched a certified cease and desist letter, firm and unequivocal. 3 days later, Brenda responded not with an apology, but with an elaborate fruit basket and a passive-aggressive note scrawled on lavender-scented stationery declaring, "Let's not let ownership get in the way of togetherness." Unbelievable. That very next weekend, the invasion began. HOA members swarmed my property like ants to a spilled picnic, their SUVs carving deep ruts into my meticulously kept lawn. They unfurled yoga mats along my private shoreline, their tinny meditation music clashing with the peaceful chorus of nature. But the ultimate offense? Their reckless crumbage. Granola bar wrappers and organic juice boxes littered my land like the aftermath of a truly dismal party. Then came the morning I woke to find a dozen people performing synchronized Tai Chi on my dock. Brenda live-streaming the spectacle with a caption about manifesting lake harmony at our community's sacred waters. My dock, built by my own hands over 3 painstaking summers, groaned under the weight of their collective enlightenment. When I, coffee in hand, attempted to ask them to leave, Brenda actually shushed me, because I was disrupting their chi flow. I stood there, utterly dumbfounded, wondering if I'd slipped into some bizarre fever dream. Next, Brenda orchestrated a blessing ceremony, scattering rose petals across my lake while chanting some incantation she likely found on YouTube. Those petals, those sacred petals, clogged my boat motor, costing me $400 in repairs. When I sent her the bill, her reply was a gift certificate for a free life coaching session and a patronizing note about releasing my attachment to material possessions. That was it. I installed a formidable gate across my driveway, secured with a combination lock, and a new private property sign featuring a cartoon trespasser being chased by a very angry goose. Brenda's counter move? The silver birch lake marshals, a squad of middle-aged dads in matching polo shirts with homemade embroidered badges, looking like bargain bin Secret Service agents. They arrived on my porch, clipboards in hand, sunglasses perched indoors, ready to negotiate access terms. I calmly handed each a laminated copy of my deed and with a straight face offered them inflatable arm floaties from my storage box, suggesting they might need them if their understanding of private property remained so utterly buoyant. They declined the floaties. They left. But Brenda wasn't finished. She escalated her bizarre war, filing a civil suit against me. Her claim was so utterly preposterous that my attorney later framed a copy for her office wall. She argued that Lake Frank was inherently communal by proximity and should be absorbed into the HOA's extended amenities portfolio. But the absolute kicker, she insisted I had benefited spiritually from the HOA's licensed feng shui consultants, who had enhanced the energy of the entire neighborhood, and therefore I owed the community reciprocal access. Was she serious? It was then I called Eleanor Vance, a legend in water rights law, known reverently as the Lake Kraken for her unwavering ability to obliterate any challenge to riparian property. Eleanor arrived at our first meeting like a general with her battle plans, color-coded topographical maps, water rights documents stretching back to 1892, and damning photos of Brenda leading unauthorized paddleboard classes right next to my "No Trespassing" sign, shaped like a giant base. During the depositions held in a stuffy conference room reeking of stale coffee and desperation, Brenda declared with a stone face that the HOA had made an emotional investment in the lake and thus deserved seasonal access. Emotional investment, she repeated a staggering 17 times, the court reporter confirmed. Eleanor's response? She presented high-definition drone footage that had everyone in the room literally leaning forward, jaws agape. The video showed HOA members brazenly littering my property, incompetently strumming ukuleles while disturbing nesting waterfowl, and a truly unforgettable scene of a man named Kevin attempting to release store-bought goldfish into the pristine waters, believing it would improve the lake's vibes and feng shui. That one act, the goldfish, shattered 3 local fish stocking laws. The county environmental department swooped in, and suddenly, Brenda wasn't just battling a property rights civil suit, she was staring down environmental fines that could easily soar into the tens of thousands. Judge Thompson, a man of 23 years on the bench, known for his no-nonsense demeanor, actually laughed during the proceedings. The moment that finally broke his composure? When Eleanor presented a photo of Brenda proudly displaying a handmade sign at the edge of my land, Lake Frank, our collective chakra, adorned with little painted butterflies. Judge Thompson had to call a 5-minute recess just to compose himself, his shoulders shaking with barely suppressed mirth. The court's ruling was a resounding victory for me on all counts. Lake Frank was unequivocally affirmed as private property, devoid of any easements or access rights for the HOA or its members. The HOA held zero jurisdiction over my land or water. Brenda herself was found guilty of multiple counts of criminal trespassing, each documented incident meticulously detailed in the judgment. The judge awarded me a staggering $28,000 in damages for property destruction, legal fees, and what he so aptly termed persistent harassment disguised as community building. He went even further, granting a permanent injunction that prohibited all HOA activities within 200 feet of my shoreline, creating a protective buffer zone that even encompassed part of the public road. With the awarded funds, I erected a sturdy 6-foot fence, topped with decorative iron spikes, established a thriving duck sanctuary, complete with nesting boxes on the eastern shore, and installed motion-activated sprinklers that blared dueling banjos at maximum volume whenever an unwelcome visitor ventured too close. That iconic tune now rings out across the water like a triumphant battle cry. The HOA, in a final act of humiliation, was forced to print a court-mandated correction in their next quarterly newsletter, its title a stark admission. Clarifying our relationship with the lake, it's not ours. They had to mail it to every single household at their own expense. Just 3 weeks after the verdict, Brenda was ousted from her HOA presidency in a decisive 7-2 vote during an emergency board meeting. 6 months later, she dared to attempt a comeback under her self-proclaimed Lake Freedom Party platform. The board's response? A unanimous vote to ban her from all future ballots in HOA positions, citing her detrimental actions to the association's legal and financial integrity. The absolute final blow landed when the county delivered its environmental fine, a staggering $35,000 for illegal fish stocking and the disruption of protected waterfowl nesting sites. As the bailiff read the colossal sum, Brenda's face cycled through a spectrum of colors, from beet red to ghostly white, finally settling on a sickly shade of green, eerily mirroring the very algae she once claimed would flourish from her ridiculous paddleboard yoga. She swayed precariously, clutching the table with white-knuckled hands, and whispered, barely audible, But it was just goldfish." Her attorney wisely placed a gentle, warning hand on her shoulder, silencing any further self-incriminating protests. Justice at last was served,